Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I think we're ready to get started, and our panelists are getting in place. My name is Becky Demland, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all here tonight. Before we get started, I want to learn a little bit about the room. So if tonight is your first Conscious Capitalism event, please raise your hand. Oh, wow. We have a lot of, you guys picked a really good one for your first Conscious Capitalism event. That is terrific. Thank you for being here tonight. I also want to give some shout outs first to Andrea and Nick of Abundant Empowerment. Yes. They have been wonderful partners for Conscious Capitalism. I'll be honest with you, when I first approached them in September, it was more like an ambush, wasn't it? I ambushed them, and I said, I have this idea for this really great meeting featuring really great leaders, and they answered yes, just like that. And they've said yes to everything. Since then, you've been wonderful partners. Thank you for that. And then I also want to do a shout out to Bob Kobeck and Mobius Vendor Partners, and they have graciously, generously stepped up as an event sponsor tonight. So shout out, a round of applause for Bob and Mobius Vendor Partners. Thank you. A little bit about Conscious Capitalism, especially since we have new folks here. I forgot to change the slide. Hang on. And my clicker decided to crap out tonight. All right, the Indianapolis chapter of Conscious Capitalism is one of 22 chapters worldwide. We started here locally in 2017, and this is our why. We champion the intersection of purpose, people, and profit. And what that looks like, practically speaking, is that we come together, we hold events like this, and we spotlight businesses and leaders that are doing business as a force for good. And you can see on your tables, we have an event next month where we're really going to dive into more of the elements of conscious capitalism. It's virtual, it's free. Please join us and learn a little bit more about what we're doing. So that's really great. Tonight, we have a group of exceptional leaders behind me, and they're here to talk to us about how they do it day to day, how they're keeping the ship focused in the right direction, toward their purpose, toward their goals, amidst what feels like a never-ending breaking news cycle. I think I see some nodding heads. We can relate to that. I'm really excited to hear from them all tonight. Rather than read through their illustrious resumes, I'll allow them each to introduce themselves. But first, I'd like to hand it over to our esteemed moderator and a purpose-driven leader herself, Andrea Butcher of Abundant Empowerment.
Hello, wonderful people. I love this format. It feels intimate, it feels connective, it feels timely. By show of hands, who feels like leadership has gotten a little more complicated over the last couple of years? Yes. Anybody tired? Anybody have a feeling like, well, that escalated quickly? Or this is a lot? Well, we're on the show of hands, but let me ask you this. Like, even on the hard days, how many of you still believe that business can be a force for good? Yeah, and isn't that why we're all here? So I'm glad to see the hands. This conversation is for all of us. This is my favorite kind of format because I just get to bring to life the brilliance that sits right here. So here's how we're gonna work. Because we have, a more intimate setting, we're gonna have real conversation. And knowing the panelists, I have had a chance to meet all of them tonight. I know some more than others, but what I know about them is that they are real humans doing hard work. And so let's not pretend that anything about what they're doing is simple. It is the hard work. And so can we just commit to having a real conversation tonight about how you lean in and how you stay in it, even on the hard days. So here's how we'll work. We're going to start with a round robin question. And what I'm going to ask the panelists to do, and we'll just go in alpha. We'll go in alphabetical order. So we'll start with you, Amy. That means you're next, Bob. Followed by Justin, and then Larry will bring us home. So here's the round robin question, and it kicks off with a bit of an introduction to conscious capitalism, but also highlights the humans sitting in these chairs. So as you're responding to this first question, also tell us a little bit about you and your business that you're leading. You're in the best position to intro yourselves. So here's the question that they will all answer. Conscious capitalism, and real quickly, you asked this. How many of you, is this your first conscious capitalism meeting? Okay, good. So business as a force for good, as you know, is, what would you say, tagline, Becky? Is that just, it's the way I think of it. It's simple. It's easy to understand. Conscious capitalism asks leaders to hold both performance and humanity at the same time. So what I want to know from the panelists is, what does conscious leadership look like for you on a hard day, not an ideal one? Amy, would you kick us off?
Sure, thank you. Is this on now? Hello, hello,
And you got to hold it close, I was told.
hello. Is that getting better? Okay. Great, I'm Amy Brown, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Authentics. We are a native AI business. That means we've been building AI models since before it was a thing. It was 2018 that I founded the company. Today we are about 150 people located on the north side of town. Here we serve healthcare companies, particularly pharma. And we ingest customer conversation data, so call recordings, and listen at scale to those conversations and provide insights to our clients about what their customers are really saying, the good, the bad, and the ugly of their experience. So that's a little bit about the company. One other bit of context that starts to get into answering the question is I early on saw that our business was one that had a time horizon to achieve kind of that perfect moment of when AI was going to start to be a thing in the market. And because of that fact, I chose about 18 months into the founding of Authentics to raise venture capital, which is something I had never done before. And so today we have been through 3 rounds of venture capital fundraising. And so I have a board that includes, besides myself, several venture-backed investors. And so what does conscious leadership look like on a really hard day for me? I mean, my mission statement of the company is helping humans understand humans. And AI is just a tool to help listen and interpret for human leaders what their human customers are going through. That is our mission, and that is why our employees get out of bed and go to work every day. But the reality is my investors are very much focused on the bottom line results of our business, which is fair. We took on capital in exchange for equity in the business. But on a hard day, conscious leadership is when there are multiple values in conflict with one another. The value of doing what's right for the client or what's missionally aligned with what you want to do with your business versus what is going to make the fastest return on investment for our investors. And I struggle with that. I struggle when there are 2 values that compete with each other. And what I've learned is first becoming aware of when that struggle is happening, because for a long time I just would have anxiety, but I didn't know why. And now that I can name it as like, oh, I value both of these things, but right now they feel like they're in conflict with each other, that has been a helpful thing to at least even begin to recognize.
I bet just the naming it is helpful, isn't it? And the awareness
Totally.
of it.
Yes.
What
totally.
does that do for you? Like just naming, like, yeah.
Well, it
this-
helps
this
objectify it and go from being like this emotional overdrive in my body to like, oh, okay, here's what it is. Now I can look at it more objectively, which allows me to deal with it more objectively. So
Great. Thank you. Appreciate you kicking us off. All right, Bob, you're up now. When you think of conscious leadership on a hard day, what does that look like for you?
First of all, I don't think it's fair for me to follow Amy Brown.
It's just alphabetical order, Bob.
Let's move it to Robert. Maybe that would be preferable. I got to tell you that being a sibling in a family of 6 means conflict, bad day, what's going to happen? It's just nature. You wake up in the morning and your brother's pissed. And so today, with a 27-year-old consulting firm that also specializes in voice of the customer, using part AI as a way to generate sentiment analysis. The conflicts that start to come in everyday life in my business and our business really come from clients. And it's our job to look at those conflicts and to look at that bad scenario as an opportunity. And that's how we spin things. That's how we always try to look at things. We have a problem, and a problem is an opportunity, and we live that culture. And our clients know we live that culture. In 27 years, we've lost 2 clients. And that was only because of consolidation. Consolidation is our enemy, not our product, not our service, not our clients. It's all about how you resolve it, how you deal with it. With 5 brothers, I've learned to ignore it.
Yeah, I mean, compared to the things you must have been faced with those brothers, not so bad, huh?
Piece of cake. I mean, the important thing to remember, though, is that in any business, you have to know how to morph. I mean, things happen. Industries change. I know when healthcare, for example, faces the same thing that we face in hospitality. Big companies buy small companies. And when that happens, we have to look at that and say, okay, we just lost a big client. Now, what are we going to do about that? Not how are we going to deal with it, but first, what are we going to do about it? And that's a culture. That's part of our culture. Solve it.
Adaptive leadership.
Solve it. Yeah.
Great. Justin, what about for you? Conscious leadership on a tough day.
Can you hear? There we go. Justin Moffett. I'm co-founder and CEO of a company called Old Town that does residential development, mostly in the north suburbs of Indianapolis. We've expanded over the years, starting with doing like infill, single-family residential development to commercial, multifamily. And I would typically introduce ourselves now as saying we build places and spaces that encourage human flourishing. And a lot of our work is in partnership with the municipalities as they seek to create energy and activity in their towns. And our company has, scaled into multiple divisions over the years. And, fail forward is a common mantra in our office and part of it's just exposing some of our leadership vulnerabilities to the team and acknowledging that we didn't start with a manual. We didn't expect to end up where we're at. And so we are literally making up as we go. And we grab consultants and advisors and we apologize a lot. But it's just, we kind of live with this acknowledgement that we're doing the best we can. But we always go back to like the core values of like what we seek to, how we seek to impact the world around us. The hard days question struck me. I took a little different path, and I started thinking about like my hard days and how I engage with work or don't engage in work effectively. And for me, in how I navigate my life at this point, there's increasingly a contemplative path in finding a grounding. Every morning, I have to get to a place of whether you call it prayer or meditation or journaling or any sort of framework you want to put around it. If I don't begin in that place, it will be a hard day. And it's become measurable for me now. And I journal about that too. I notice that. I go, I was the person I didn't want to be today. How did I start my day? And every single time, it lacked that place of grounding. And so we talk a lot about gratitude as a concept within our organization, and not as some platitude that's like virtue signaling, but it's just a recognition that like, I didn't get us here, the team got us here. And when we start with that, or when I start with that, I know I'm a different human. And now that I talk about that concept openly with the team, it's led to what my good friend over here, Chip, calls our in on the joke culture. People can poke at me when I'm having a hard day because they know where I didn't start.
Wow. We are 3 responses in, and I already have so many insights. Thank you for that. Larry, bring us home around conscious leadership on a tough day.
Okay, thank you. Before I go down that path, I want to recognize Amy and Justin. My answers today would be different than they were when I was 40 or 30. And what Amy and Justin have done, and the challenges they've faced, the mountains they've climbed. Amy, I don't know if you're all aware of this, was one of the 250 most influential people in Indiana, voted this year CEO of the Year by the IBJ. Very humble, which is part of really the...
I also love that you think I'm 40.
What's that?
I said I also love that you think I'm 40. That makes me so happy.
Well, you never know, you know. And Justin's just a phenomenal man. I was going to say young man, young to me, but what they're doing at this age is something I was not prepared to do. It was a different time. I was at a different place. The world was different back when I was in my 40s and 50s, but I so appreciate what they've done and what they've built, and I've certainly learned from both of them. But I would say on a tough day is when conscious capitalism really shows up, when consciousness really shows up. That's the important day. It's when you need to get grounded, and you know, Justin talked about doing it in the morning. Sometimes it's at noon, sometimes it's at 10 o'clock, where things happen, shit hits the fan, you lose a customer, whatever might happen. You've got to be strong. You've got to be strong in your principles. My answer includes decades of experience where I know this too shall pass, that you know we trust the process. We're doing the right things. We're practicing these principles, and we're not going to win every deal. We're going to lose a deal on occasion. So being grounded in the principles, being grounded in the doing the right thing, the core values, the vision. When you get punched in the nose, you shake it off and you stand up and you keep going. And having that conscious center is imperative to. There were a number of situations in my business where my strength in those moments really made a difference with the team, with them seeing how I responded, how I reacted. And I wasn't faking anything. I was doing it with confidence. I was doing it with certainty that we're doing the right thing. We're going to win. We're not going to win every game, but we're going to win. And so that true north, that center that I had was so critical to show our team what I was made of, and gave them the confidence then on those tough days to suck it up and keep moving forward.
That's great. Thank you, Larry. It's a good question for all of us to reflect on. So I appreciate the insights. You know, and I'm hopeful that all of us are, as we're listening and learning, we're reflecting on that on a tough day. What does conscious leadership look like for you? Because notice that while there was definitely a through line, there I heard some uniqueness as well. Amy, you started with awareness and naming it. Bob, you talked about morphing. You talked about your contemplative strategies, Justin, and you brought it home by acknowledging each of them. So thank you for that.
By the way, I don't have a business, so when you talk about these daily challenges, I don't have those anymore. I'm retired.
Something we all aspire to. Yes. Okay, so here's how we're going to work. It's always good to start with a little process check so we all know where we're going. So we have until about 7 o'clock. Is that right? Good. So I'll be paying attention to time. I have several questions in front of me, but just know I'm going to be intuitive and kind of tap into the flow and the feel of the group. We won't have every panelist answer every question. Again, just kind of based on what I know of you, I'm going to do what feels right. But feel free, panelists. I mean, I feel like there's already such good connection and flow here. So if you have something to add, let's just jump in. How does that feel for process? Does that work for everyone? So let's start with polycrisis. And I'm going to ask, Bob, I'm going to ask you to start with this one. You know, it was very purposeful that the team named the session the way they did. And I don't know about for you, but like polycrisis, like I had this does not feel good in my body, right? That word. And when we did a post on LinkedIn, I had multiple people, you know, express different sentiments like, oh gosh, thank you for naming that, and wow, like what a great term for what I'm feeling right now, and is just a lot right now. You know, the geopolitical tensions, the concerns of social inequality, the economic volatility, like all of them we could go on and on and on. Thank goodness the Hoosiers won on Monday night. That really helped, didn't it? With some of that tension. So, polycrisis. So, Bob, here's a question for you. When all of these things feel so heavy, how do you protect your culture and your people from crisis fatigue? How do you navigate that?
I get to date myself. I'm actually older than you, sir. And right out of college, my career path was political science. And right out of college, I was recruited to go to work in the United States Senate in Washington, D.C. So I came into the polycrisis world when Ronald Reagan was elected. I thought my life was over at that time. But now when you fast forward to today and you look at AI and you consider the fact that Ronald Reagan's most famous words, trust but verify. And so when you look at the polycrisis world that we're in today, there's always another time in our history that we can equate it to, always. I mean, it was, you know, when you look at today, when Donald Trump talks about tariffs, that's nothing new. Herbert Hoover talked about tariffs. I mean, there are times in our history that we have looked at and thought our lives are going to be over, but if you understand that we are good citizens, and we're really good citizens, and we're happy citizens, and we want our citizenship to survive all this, it just makes it a lot easier. That's not to say you accept it, but that's to say that you understand it. And in a polycrisis world today that we're facing today, geez, there's so much chaos. It's everywhere. I mean, it's downtown Indianapolis, it's in Carmel, it's on the, you know, it's in Davos right now. And so there's nothing new that's going on today that hasn't happened before. We just have to be careful that we manage it properly up here and in here.
That's great. Justin, I feel like you have something to add to that.
I feel like it's my responsibility to help connect the dots for the team. And we do development and construction. We have half the company in the office, half the company in the field. A lot of the people in our organization are technical doers, and they don't experience the impacts and the results of their work. And so we find it our responsibility, leadership team, to help everyone understand how their role creates a result that's positive for the organization, the sustainability of the organization, and then subsequently the impact on the community. And so I think that obviously creates a sense of, I guess, fulfillment, potential fulfillment in their role. But we do believe that the work we perform has a positive impact on community. It's housing. Sometimes it's attainable housing for marginalized populations. Sometimes it's just community placemaking, but it's jobs generations. And so there's a lot to be proud of in the work. And so we want everyone to understand the critical role they play in that final result. And so I guess that's what leadership looks like, is making sure everybody on the team finds their place of meaning in the work.
Connecting the dots for them. Yeah, Amy or Larry, anything you would add?
I think a very real struggle that I've wrestled with as I've grown a company and being kind of the CEO, thinking about, okay, what am I going to say in this moment? I struggle with wanting to be in tune with the context of the world and what our employees might be bringing into work that day, from a worry about the poly crisis, but also wanting to balance that with want to balance that being in tune and in touch and acknowledging the context of it, while not letting it be a continuation of the energy and anxiety in our business. And I find that balance to be, you have to be conscientious about how you balance that. And I'm sharing that that's a real thing. As more than ever in my career, is it a real thing of like, how do I show up very clearly in tune with the context of our world, while also not letting it distract us from our mission? And I resonate with what you said, Justin, in terms of like where do we tend to focus our efforts internally? It's less on, it's very much about focusing. No one gets out of bed at Authentics to drive a profit for our shareholders. Quite frankly, they get out of bed because they want to know that they made a difference and they are aligned with the purpose of helping healthcare change. And so we try to really keep the team focused on that mission, and it kind of serves almost as a refuge, I believe, from the context, not ignoring the context of the poly crisis, but being a counterpoint to it, if you will.
Yeah, so you give them a bigger purpose. You give them something to connect to. That's what I'm hearing from both of you. Yeah, anything you would add, Larry?
I don't think so. I don't think I need to.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your role as CEO. Justin, I'm going to start with you because you hit on this with your morning practice. I mean, the way you start your day shapes your day, it sounds like.
Good days, not hard days.
Right. But you learn that because of your practices. You journal and all of those things. So here's a question. Keeping yourself in a place where you can navigate all of the challenge. Like, what is a leadership practice that helps you to stay grounded, anchored in good leadership?
It's obvious I'm the one that needed notes up here. I would say that I'm increasingly comfortable with being completely vulnerable with our organization and acknowledging all my failures in the areas where I lack skills. The question was centered around like all the expectations of CEOs, all the skills we're expected to have. I think that organization, I'm probably quoting somebody in the room who told this to me, the organization was really formed around like the skills of the founders would be generous. It's really the habits of the founders. And we have a lot of bad habits and we just, again, failing forward. And so I think that's where we've really grown up, is acknowledging that we didn't have a process for that thing. We just did it the best we knew how. Please help us invent a process because we've reached the limits of our own skills. I think that's where I've really seen our good growth happen, is when we've been comfortable acknowledging our own leadership weaknesses, and then it's kind of created this opportunity for other people to step up and run with it. Then all of a sudden we experience growth, and then there's this aha moment for me, like, oh, I was holding myself back by not acknowledging my own inability. And so I think that's something I continue to struggle with though, like that.
Yeah.
What's the next thing I can identify that where I need help?
What does that look like? Do you have a recent example where you acknowledged a struggle, a challenge?
Oh wow. We, I have a business partner. Talking to another friend in the development business. I mean, business partnerships are really tough, and I would say, the thing I'm most proud of is the fact that we have had enough humility to admit to each other that sometimes we need help in navigating our own partnership relationship. We need an outside voice speaking into it, and that's transformed our relationship and allowed us to move beyond the trip hazards that we kept stumbling. Actually, there's usually trip hazards we would put in front of employees unknowingly. And so I think for us, it's recognizing that we create the partners, the owners create the most conflict within the organization for the most part through lack of alignment. And so for us, it's moving into a structure where we're acknowledging that as partners and owners and saying for our organization to be sustainable beyond the leadership of the founders and the reality of the scale that we're playing at now, we can't do all these jobs anymore. But we don't know necessarily where we're causing problems. And so back to that, concept of in on the joke culture, we need your help, team, in helping us identify where we're creating the problem. And we have to then demonstrate to you that we can handle the information. And so when you tell us, hey, CEO, you frequently do this thing, or you come over the top and micromanage, I think back to the whole principle of on the good day versus the hard day. Yeah. When I'm in a place where I'm grounded, I can hear that and recognize that it's my responsibility to basically transmute the negative and really help them grow in their leadership journey. And that's something I'm just now scratching the surface, learning to do. But I think it's that professional vulnerability of allowing this open forum where our team can critique us.
Yeah, it's just so much openness I hear from you, which takes a ton of courage.
I tried it the other way and I was miserable.
Right. Isn't it interesting how that works?
Transparency is a word that gets used a lot, but not used a lot. I mean, transparency tends to be just a word. And like in our life, we're a business process consulting firm. And unfortunately, I'm the last one in the world to use business processes in my business, in our business. So hell hath no fury when I step into that lane. The EVP of operations is in the back of the room. And so she is coincidentally my wife. So there are no holes barred. And I got to tell you, that's a very valuable learning experience for me to know. Stay the hell out.
Yeah.
Because in the technology side of our business, and Amy's a technology company also, innovation, innovate or die. I mean, you have to continue to grow and you have to continue to innovate. And in our particular life, I come up with ideas, which I have to do every day, but that doesn't mean it's going to fly in the back room.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love for, I want to just stay a little bit, I'm purposefully sticking with this theme of, what do you do to keep yourself grounded? Because it's so critical, isn't it? My favorite definition of culture is the shadow of the leader. So for all of us, taking the time to really reflect on what is the tone that I'm setting. So Amy and Larry also talk about for you, you both have highlighted a bit some of the things you do to keep yourself anchored. But what are some habits that you have to stay connected to you?
Well, that's an easy one for me. It's something Justin alluded to, contemplation, meditation. I've been on a path of meditating for over 40 years and haven't perfected it, but am at a place where it's a discipline. It's a center part of my life. So I center there, and then when I come out into the world, I'm prepared, I'm equipped. And that might be multiple times, it is multiple times throughout the day. When I was leading the company, it was multiple times a day. I needed it. I needed to go recharge, and it might be get in my car and go to a parking lot and meditate for 20 minutes on a particular thought, on a particular message, but it's the centering, getting to a place of strength and calm and power, really.
And now it's a discipline for you.
It is.
It's daily.
Daily.
You can't make that up. You really can't make that up. Either you're gonna sit back and honestly meditate about that strength and about your confidence in yourself and your ability, or you'll feel it. You'll feel it every day. I'd rather not feel that. I totally subscribe to the meditation.
And I would add, Bob, elephant in the room to me is there's a spiritual element, and there's a spiritual element to conscious capitalism. Consciousness is a spiritual process, really. It's an inner process. So, when I meditate, I'm filled, if you will. And meditating is like playing golf. If you're a golfer, you can go out and think, I'm gonna throw my clubs in the water. I can't figure this out. Next day, I shoot a 39.
It's always the 250-yard drive, though, that keeps you
Well,
going.
those are in my past. Those are in my past. But it's not me. And one of my themes as I'm looking at a lot of these questions is it's not about me. It's about us. It's about in the inner journey, it's about a higher power. And you can call it what you want, you call it different names, but that's where the power came to me to lead my business, to practice the principles, to act with love. And love's, it's a four-letter word. That guided me throughout the last decade of our business and led us to a very successful end, not end, but transition. So that meditation taps into resources beyond me. And it's not religious, it's really spiritual.
Yeah, and you can feel that from you. Like from the moment I met you tonight, I got that vibe. So you live it.
And that vibe isn't me. It's coming through me.
Amy, what about for you?
It's very hard to follow that, Larry. I would say, I know you're looking for kind of like habits, but I'll name a few habits, but they really, it's all about a commitment to internal growth, internal examination. As Chip would say, the vertical journey, the vertical growth. And so for me, the leadership practice is a relentless commitment to not staying stagnant in your own internal growth and journey. As you get older, as you get more experience, your perspective changes. And if you don't take time regularly to reflect upon that, then you're missing out. You're going through motions. And for me, like, I've done a lot of examining of what's at the root of when I feel something negative. And that negative feeling goes into, starts to take over in my daily life at work. And at the root of it is, things that trigger my ego. And those things could be shame from my childhood. They could be insecurities about my capability or skill set. And I found that the more I lean into understanding myself, the more I'm able to identify and release those things, and I'm able to show up as the person that it's not about me. It's not about me. it's about the we, it's about our mission. And I have found that the more I do practices that remind me and force me to think about my internal journey, the better of a leader I can be that day or that week. Those practices for me include everything from working out to meditation and prayer to choosing a word for the year and doing lots of things that help me remember my word, like wearing it on my wrist and having a painting in my office. Just putting those little daily things in your life to remind you to stay awake into the internal of what's going on.
And I love that it's not just one thing. It's all of the things. What is your 2026 word?
River.
River, like flow like a river?
It means so many things.
Wow, that was a surprise.
So I'll just like be the collective of the room. Like I am reminded how important it is to get myself right, to really pay attention to what's happening within me, to do the things that work for me to be okay. Yeah, I had an argument recently, and don't you love like a good long drive to set yourself straight? So I had an argument, and you know the first, so I had a drive yesterday, and so the first part of the drive was all of the things they should have done better, and how they needed to apologize, and you know you've all been there, right? We all know those moments, and so fortunately, on my drive, I recognized that it did not feel good. And so I asked for some help. And what is it that I'm not seeing here? And I'm so glad I did that, because suddenly I felt like, wait a second, who am I to like set anybody straight? This is what needs to be set straight. Like, this is where the lack of alignment is. Like, this is where the problem is. And immediately it shifted the whole thing. So thank you for encouraging all of us to pay attention to what's happening within us. So that's where it starts, right? You are setting the tone. You have led or are leading organizations that have multiple stakeholders. And so I want to talk now about that, because your decisions and the choices that you make impact all of those different stakeholders. So what about when you have a short-term business necessity or challenge like rising costs or supply chain shifts, and those short-term necessities conflict with a long-term vision or value? You have multiple stakeholders that have different ideas and different needs and different wants. Like, what's the internal dialogue that you have to ensure that you walk the talk of purpose-driven and being the person that you've all talked about that you want to be? Bob, kick us off.
Being an Italian Polish guy, I tend to get emotional, and that
I wish you would.
well, I know you don't, because it's not pretty, but it's managing that. There's nothing wrong with being emotional, but how you manage that emotion. And in our particular business, because we're part art, part science. I mean, we're consultants, we're process consultants with a technology solution. And so in our world, we don't need a lot of employees, but we need a lot of contractors. We need to be able to dial up and dial down depending on the situation. And so there are times when, back to consolidation, somebody buys somebody, we lose a client. That means we may have to let 30 contractors know that, sorry, you know. However, they're in business for themselves, and typically they understand that. If they don't understand that, I'm happy to take the time and talk to them, tell them that. So be transparent, be fair, be honest, tell the truth.
Yeah.
And mostly tell the truth to yourself. I mean, you know, be true to you.
You mentioned transparency earlier. What about a situation where, like, how transparent should I be? Aren't there things that I shouldn't share? How do you discern what's helpful, what's not?
What's the truth? We lost a client, so we can't use your services anymore. I could find a way to sugarcoat that and find a way to make it easier and make it nice, but that doesn't make it any easier or nicer on them or me. That's like shooting Novocaine. You know, I mean, how much is enough? I don't know, one more than I have, I suppose. You know, that's my answer to everything. How much data is enough? One more than I have. How much transparency is enough? As transparent as I can possibly be without jeopardizing my integrity and insulting their intelligence.
Yeah, great. What would others add?
We use an analogy about the mountain and what trail are you on and at what place on the mountain are you, and wherever you are, you have a view of the scene. And we talk about that a lot at Authentics because when you have multiple stakeholders who all stand on their valid place on the mountain and have their view, if we don't first understand their view, regardless of where your view is, you have to understand where their view is. And that's an exercise, again, in like separating out the emotions. I think emotions are so fabulous because they're signals, but they can go for a ride, but they shouldn't be driving the car, right? And one of the most important parts of that process of putting emotions where they belong is gaining perspective. And so if you have a culture where the expectation is you understand each stakeholder and where they stand from on the mountain and what their view is, you can, at least when negotiating the choices of short-term versus long-term, you can start from a collective understanding of the different points of view. And when you start a problem solutioning around that place, it allows you to kind of see it more clearly and get to a solution more clearly. Mm-hmm. It also allows people to like say, okay, you see me.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Thank you for seeing me.
Yeah.
That's appreciated. I love that analogy. That's great. Larry, anything that you'd add?
Well, my business was privately held. I didn't have stockholders, investors to be concerned about. So in the last 6 or 7 years or longer of our business, we just took the long view. So short-term challenges, supply chain challenges, we just sucked it up and made the right decision, did the right thing for our stakeholders, which Patty and I were the only shareholders, so we weren't accountable to anyone else for that, but just do the right thing and not worry about quarterly earnings, not worry about profit, just do the right thing. And that's part of the magic of the conscious capitalism model is you do the right thing and money starts coming out the bottom more than you would have expected. It's like, where's all this money coming from?
It just works out somehow.
Yes, but I didn't have to answer to anyone but Patty, and she gave me a lot of leeway financially in the business.
Yeah.
She's over here in black. That's my wife.
We should get her up here to see what she might have to say. Yeah, Justin, what would you add?
I didn't hear Larry preaching some sort of prosperity gospel, but I really do preach something similar within our organization, that when we execute with discipline, we always get invited to the next opportunity. It has never failed. And that's what I hear when Larry shared that, was when you lead with integrity, people want to be associated with you and they seek you out and your business grows. We have increasingly kind of moved towards just thinking about the whole infinite game model, like we live to play another day. And when we think through like where we started, I was in my 20s and I was broke and I had little kids, and it very much was like, I gotta like pay the mortgage. And then you reach a milestone and that's not as pressing. Then it's like, how many chips can I collect? And then hopefully if you get to a place where you recognize that your happiness doesn't come from accumulation, it comes from depth of relationship, your goals shift a little. And then you start, another friend of mine frequently reminds me that my role is to grow fruit on other people's trees. And so then you're like, oh, that starts to feel like a little freeing.
Say that again, Justin?
Growing fruit on other people's trees. And that gave me a lot of freedom thinking about that framework of, like, I've achieved, some modest material success, but maybe professional success. How do I get these people there? And that gives you a little more life in your work, a little more meaning and purpose for me. But it's back to like this flywheel that never stops that Larry talks about. When your focus becomes growing fruit on other people's trees, all of a sudden, like, I own the orchard with my partners. Like, it's like it creates this economic benefit that allows you to be even more generous with your team. So I think that it generates this flywheel over time.
I have to say that the integrity of your product is absolutely amazing. I can drive down any street in Carmel and I can tell what house you built. They all look alike. I mean, not alike, but they all have the same style, the cottage. And when you look at them, you can see quality. So it's obvious that the integrity of the product is important to you, and you can see that. I can drive
And that's
down.
an important part, Bob, of conscious capitalism. You got to have the business. You got to have the product. You got to.
And you got to do it with
You
integrity.
can't just practice these philosophies and tenets
Right. And you have to
and
do it
be
with
successful.
And you have to do it with integrity. I mean, our first line is protect the integrity of the product at all costs. Ahead of marketing, ahead of sales, ahead of anything else, protect the integrity of the product.
Yeah, and it reflects everything Justin has shared, doesn't it?
Yep.
And so it flows from him.
Because him is very visible.
Absolutely.
You can see it.
It's a great point, Bob. Thank you for highlighting that. Good. So we have just a few more minutes, and so I want to ask our panelists to answer a final lightning round question. You're up for it. In one word, what is the North Star that gets you through a day when the headlines feel overwhelming?
Persist. That's mine.
What was it, Bob?
Persist.
Love.
River.
She can't use river.
That's an easy.
River.
Can't use it.
River.
True.
I'm going to cheat. I have a whiteboard in my basement that I write things on that strike me. And I was thinking about, I was reading your notes on the treadmill this morning. But I saw something that struck me, and it was back to gratitude. The big lie is that happiness is found at the point of arrival. Happiness is available to experience each day on the journey. And I would say first half of life values, it was always like, there's going to be a point of arrival that I get to. And it never came. And then I think that's when, this contemplative journey began, and this place of grounding is that for me. And it's more of a journey mindset.
Let's give our panelists a big round of applause. And let's give them one more round of applause for preparing for questions that I never did get to. So thank you. If you thought the responses to those questions were good, imagine the other ones. Timing for me is always very purposeful. I see a connection in everything. And a friend sent me a poem today, and I'm not going to read the whole poem, but I trust that these words will land. It feels so appropriate for our conversation this evening and what our panelists have shared. So it's a June Jordan poem. Some of these words may be familiar, but just listen to this. At a time right now where we are all feeling a lot and seeing all of the opportunities around. Oh, wow, there's a call for leadership right now. And we're up for it. I so believe that. I feel it. We're up for it. So here's the piece of the poem I wanted to share. And who will join this standing up? And the ones who stood without sweet company will sing and sing back into the mountains, and if necessary, under the sea. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Isn't that the truth? So thank you, panelists. I also want to thank Becky and the board of Conscious Capitalism, the Indianapolis chapter. Could the board stand? Let's give you some recognition. Leslie and Karen. Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
Andrea, do we have time for questions from the...
Yeah, well, Becky, do we have time for questions? How do we want to, you manage that?
We can do some questions. We might have to ask you to move to the mic, though. Does anybody want to ask a question of our panel? Oh, great. How much leeway we have there?
I would love to hear your thoughts as you look forward into the future and what opportunities you see as you develop into conscious leadership, just acknowledging that we're always developing.
I see an opportunity for all of us to help our people learn, and especially the newer generations of our workforce, learn how to grow and maintain their humanness. There was a post in my company this morning about using AI to become more efficient. And while I didn't hate that post that my teammate sent out to our team, I thought about all of the lessons I learned through drafting and redrafting and redrafting and redrafting and redrafting and redrafting and redrafting. I would have been robbed of that lesson if I would be entering the workforce today with the pressure that's being shoved down everybody's throats to adopt AI. Just help our people find skills that make them human and hold on to those. I think there's an opportunity for that right now.
Would anybody else like to chime
Yeah,
in?
I tend to agree with that completely. 13-year-old grandson I love dearly, but he can't tell time. He can look at digits. He can't write. He doesn't write. Does that make him wrong? No, not necessarily. It makes him contemporary. But then again, we tried to promote to our people, have a charity of choice, and we'll support your charity of choice. That's something that's really kind of critical today, with funding being cut everywhere in every charity. So we encourage charities of choice for our people, and that helps them stay grounded too.
I guess I would say that I'm very hopeful and optimistic about opportunities in the future. We wouldn't have had this forum or this conversation, 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. So there's a movement, and that's what conscious capitalism is about. It's a movement to do the right thing, to take care of the people under our influence. And I think it's a truth that is spreading, and that's what we're here to do, is spread. It's okay to take care of your people. It's okay to care for your people. It's okay to put them first. It's okay to do the things that we're all about. And so I'm we visualize within conscious capitalism a day where your organization's going to have to practice this and take care of your people, or no one's going to work for you. We're early on that path, but I'm confident that we're going to succeed in this movement. Not just conscious capitalism, but the truth of what we're about. And it's up to us to make that happen. Have courage and do the right thing.
All right, do the right thing. Anybody else have questions? You know, I have been envisioning what this night was going to be like for about 6 months now, and this far exceeded anything that I imagined. So I thank you all panelists. I thank you, Andrea, for your awesome moderation skills. Another round of applause for our panelists. Andrea, please. I know, several things that all of you said resonated with me. I took several notes. The one that really paints a picture that I'll carry with me is about growing fruit on other people's trees. I really like that, and I think I'd like to learn more about in on the joke culture. That was another one.
You could see Chip over here with Kairos. They
Oh, he'll
help-
fill me in on that?
help, yeah, commercial for a friend who also has helped us
Very
establish
good.
our culture.
Well, you've all been so generous with sharing with the group here tonight. You have all been generous with your time because this conversation wouldn't happen if you weren't here to be part of it. We have the room for a little bit longer. Please spend more time mingling. Please enjoy more food and sign up for our next event, which is February 17th. The QR code will take you right to the registration. And approach me or any of the leadership team members if you have questions about our chapter. And I thank you all for being here. Be safe tonight.